High taxes are now a startling reality for many in the United States. Our corporate tax rates are the highest in the developed world. We're the only country that taxes its non-resident citizens on global income. And the current administration has proposed literally hundreds of new taxes. Yet, at the same time as places like California and New York ramp up taxes to pay for ballooning budgets, there is now a burgeoning new tax-free zone designed to stimulate growth, encourage investment, and nurture entrepreneurship by reducing federal and state taxes by 90% or more. It's America's tax-free zone, and it couldn't have come soon enough. America, the land of the free and home of the brave. From George Washington and Thomas Jefferson to Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton, the promise of this great nation has always been one of opportunity.
It is time to reawaken this industrial giant, to get government back within its means, and to lighten our punitive tax burden.
Liftoff of the first operational space shuttle mission.
And these will be our first priorities, and on these principles there will be no compromise.
Tonight I stand before you to report that America has created the longest peacetime economic expansion in our history. With nearly 18 million new jobs, wages rising at more than twice the rate of inflation, the highest home ownership in history, the smallest welfare rolls in 30 years, and the lowest peacetime unemployment since 1957.
That was in 1999. A lot has changed since.
There is no break in the steady increase of the national debt, now up to an astounding $13 trillion.
$14 trillion.
Staggering $15 trillion.
$16 trillion.
$17 trillion. America's debt now topping that level for the first time ever.
The problem we face is real. The path we're on is unsustainable. This debt that is building up is like a cancer. It will literally destroy our country from within if we don't tackle it.
The situation is theoretically soluble, but not practically and realistically soluble.
Relative to the rest of the world, this country has been going downhill.
Doug Casey is a New York Times best-selling author and is one of the most successful resource investors of his generation.
The government's deficit as we speak is in between $500 billion and $1 trillion, and this is after a so-called recovery from the recession.
The government has an enormous debt, the difference between what it collects in taxes and what it spends. And imagine what's going to happen when interest rates go up.
Peter Schiff is one of Wall Street's most famous investors.
Right now, interest rates are at zero. They can't stay here forever. Eventually, rates are going to go up. And now the government is going to have to spend a lot more money paying the interest on all the money we borrowed to try to get us out of the Great Recession. And so where is the government going to get that money?
You may know him from YouTube fame as videos of Peter Schiff calling the market's collapse way back in 2006.
The warnings Schiff made prior to the economic crisis in 2008 ultimately earned him tremendous global media attention.
We're on the verge of a major recession that's probably going to start by the end of this year, maybe early next year.
He's now warning successful Americans that the U.S. government has too many obligations, and as a result, taxes that are already high in many jurisdictions have nowhere to go but up.
If you look at the conversation that dominates the political discourse today, it's all about class warfare, advocating huge tax increases, bigger income taxes, a wealth tax, and you do have a widening divide between the very rich and the middle class and the poor. The source of that is actually government and the Federal Reserve, but nobody really cares or understands that. and they have the wrong solution, which is raising taxes on the rich, that's not going to solve the problem. It's going to make it worse. And so I think we're going to have tax increases upon tax increases upon tax increases.
Since Inauguration Day, President Obama pushing for 442 different tax increases.
If we're serious about reducing the deficit, if this is genuinely a moral obligation to the next generation, then in addition to some tough spending cuts, we've also got to make sure that the wealthy do a little bit more.
I think it's a very dangerous time to be an American, particularly an American with a substantial income.
President Obama has the mega rich in his sights as he attempts to cut the U.S. budget deficit. He's seeking a higher minimum tax rate for anyone making more than $1 million a year.
If you're a successful American living in a state with an income tax, given the new Obamacare tax, you're already looking at marginal tax rates of 50% or higher. And that's before the next round of tax hikes. So where is it going to go? 60%, 70%, 80%? Possible.
Rich people, I'm sure you'd agree with this, actually do pay the freight in this country. They do. I just saw these statistics. I mean, something like 70%. And here in California, I just want to say, liberals, you could actually lose me. It's outrageous what we're paying. Over 50%. I'm willing to pay my share, but yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Higher taxes aren't just impacting the rich. The middle class is being hit too.
Lenin called it quite correctly when he said in 1917 that the middle class will be ground between the millstones of inflation and taxation. And that's exactly what's happening to the American middle class, which is getting smaller and poorer all the time. So we're increasingly becoming a two-class society.
While both the rich and the middle class are seeing their taxes rise, American businesses are being levied with some of the highest corporate taxes in the Western world.
It's hard enough to run a business. All the other expenses that you have of running a business, all of your overhead, dealing with issues of employees, and of course the government makes it a lot harder with all the laws and regulations that, for the labor market, which make it so much more expensive and difficult to manage a workforce. But then to have to throw taxes on top of it. A lot of businessmen are sidetracked. They spend a lot of their time and their resources trying to figure out how to avoid taxes and minimize taxes. It'd be much better if you can devote all of your resources to growing your business as opposed to trying to figure out how to protect your profits from the government.
In a reversal that would have been unthinkable a few short years ago, America's super high corporate tax rates are pushing businesses out of the U.S.
Burger King and other American companies have to pay a lot of corporate taxes in this country. So the plan for Burger King is to invert itself as technically a Canadian company so it can pay the lower Canadian tax rates.
Burger King is a victim of the war on success.
It's very much as if a snowball started rolling downhill 100 years ago. Started out very small, the taxation level of Americans, but now it's turned into an avalanche. And although you can stop a snowball when it's just started rolling, once it's the size of an avalanche, it has a life of its own, and it's impossible to stop. This is the only major country in the world where even if you leave the U.S. and never set foot back into it again, you're obligated to file a tax return and pay taxes on your worldwide income for the rest of your life.
A man grows discontented when his own labors and the labors of his family go mainly to enrich a landlord. For peasants like these, there is hope of a better life in America across the sea.
It's almost like U.S. citizenship is a punishment. It's an albatross that you wear around your neck. That's why so many people now are willing to pay significant sums of money to renounce their citizenship. At one point, nobody would have thought of giving up an American citizenship. Now people will pay money to give it up.
Eduardo Saverin, one of the billionaire co-founders of Facebook, is probably the most famous American to give up his citizenship.
The Brazilian-born entrepreneur, who many say owes his good fortune to his very American Harvard education and California-fueled internet boom, has renounced his U.S. citizenship, allegedly to avoid paying millions to Uncle Sam when Facebook goes public.
There's a joke about divorce. Why is divorce so expensive? Because it's worth it. Well, why is it so expensive to give up your U.S. citizenship? Right? Because it's worth it. Because you save a tremendous amount of money.
The number of Americans renouncing has dramatically increased year over year, with an over 200% jump last year alone. Renouncing your citizenship to lower a tax bill has really only been an option for the mega wealthy. The truth is, most Americans don't want to leave the U.S. This is where all of us have built our lives and careers. This is home. But the fiscal mess the country is in right now is real and has no end in sight.
The government has all this debt, and it's counting on milking the taxpayers to pay it off.
Taxes have no place to go but up. And even if they stayed at this level, everybody's going to be kicked into a higher tax bracket because of inflation. So you've got to do something to cut your tax bill.
There are some politicians who believe taxes are indeed too high, that there is a strong need to provide competitive tax strategies for U.S. citizens so the country doesn't lose the best and brightest to competing jurisdictions. They've worked hard on the problem, and the result is America's tax-free zone. This is Puerto Rico. They call it the All-Star Island. It's also home to the lowest taxes for Americans anywhere in the world.
Now Puerto Rico is figured out. Let's try capitalism. So how do we get some capitalists to come down to Puerto Rico? Eliminate the taxes. Let's let people come to Puerto Rico and keep what they earn. And so while everybody else on the mainland is talking about taxing the rich more and making them pay even more, let's try to see how much blood we can squeeze out of them. Puerto Rico says, come here and we won't tax you at all.
An unincorporated territory of the United States, Puerto Rico has nearly all of the benefits of being a state without being one, in addition to holding a trump card the states don't have.
It's the only place really in the world where you can just move to a major city. Puerto Rico's not like a tiny little remote Caribbean island. I mean, there's stuff going on there, right? You can move to Puerto Rico and you're out from under the tax code. You don't have to worry about it. And also, you're not a foreigner.
In 2012, Puerto Rico unveiled two new game-changing economic development laws, Acts 20 and 22.
The benefits are extraordinary.
Jose Ramon Perez Rera is the former Secretary of Economic Development and Commerce in Puerto Rico. He was one of the architects of the laws.
What I set out to achieve was to provide for incentives that were extraordinary. They had to be too good to be true, with a little difference, which is that they had to be true. They had to work, and they do.
Acts 20 and 22 act in tandem for people and businesses who relocate to Puerto Rico. Act 22 is for individuals and provides a total exemption from income taxes on all passive income, including capital gains, interest, and dividends. Act 20 is for businesses that export services from Puerto Rico to the U.S. or internationally. There's just a 4% withholding on distributions to owners. What all of this means is that for certain individuals, these laws reduce taxes by 80%, 90%, or even more. And for the right businesses, it means tax rates of just 4% on earnings. Many very serious investors are taking a closer look and buying in. One of them is billionaire hedge fund manager John Paulson.
The economic incentives that you have here in Puerto Rico for Americans are not available anywhere else in the world. There's no other place an American could go and get these type of economic incentives. And that draw is just so powerful that the more people learn about it, the more movement you're going to see of people, all types of businesses, service businesses, my business, particularly financial, located in Puerto Rico.
Speaking at the 2014 Puerto Rico Investment Summit, Paulson favorably compared the island to other high economic growth jurisdictions.
I would summarize the advantages. First, it's U.S. jurisdiction. Second, it's already a vibrant commercial center. Third, very high quality lifestyle. Fourth, excellent school system. 5, I want to emphasize this again, a very cooperative government. This is a government that doesn't stonewall you, bends over backwards to help you accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish. 6, a transportation hub. And lastly, but not leastly, unrivaled economic benefits, unique in the world for American citizens.
But Paulson isn't the only one buying into the Puerto Rico opportunity.
I don't think there's ever been a better time to acquire irreplaceable landmark assets at these kind of prices. I think that my fellow investors share a conviction that beachfront property located in a country with an American flag in the courtroom and a CVS on the corner is a good bet. I think you couple that with a government that is bending over backwards to attract business while at the same time enacting generational reforms, and you've got the recipe for a comeback.
Nicholas Prouty is the managing partner at Putnam Bridge, an investment firm. He's investing nearly $750 million into Puerto Rican real estate. Prouty has already taken advantage of Acts 20 and 22 and has moved his family to San Juan, the capital city.
I've never made an investment decision based solely on taxes. Taxes are an expense and not a cost. Thus, tax treatment becomes, I think, more of a consideration than a decision driver. So, it was, with that in mind that we began our work to understand whether Puerto Rico would be a good fit for our family. And, what we found was really encouraging. The schools are all top ranked and can go head to head with some of the great schools in New York and in our case, Greenwich, Connecticut. Another big issue was healthcare for us. We wanted to get a much better understanding of the quality of the doctors in Puerto Rico. And in that regard, again, I think Puerto Rico has all of its bases covered.
Lifestyle-wise, Puerto Rico can compete with just about any major cosmopolitan city.
Suffice to say, you can jam-pack your calendar with events, dinners, concerts. It's really unbelievable. I think that Puerto Rico has everything we thought we would miss.
Puerto Rico has an average annual temperature of 80 degrees Fahrenheit and access to some of the most beautiful beaches in the world.
We spent the day at the beach, and with the dogs, the entire community comes down to the beach, so just the relationships and the opportunity for fun and family on the weekends, and it just makes it a very unique lifestyle.
Toby Neugebauer has just recently taken advantage of Acts 20 and 22. He and his family are building a home in Dorado, an incredible community just west of San Juan.
I've had the opportunity to meet a number of people, both expats and locals. I would say we have gravitated to the locals. They've been so friendly, so warm. They are genuinely interested and excited that you're here. And I think again, culturally, something maybe I felt like we start to miss back in Texas is knowing your neighbor. And every Sunday, it feels like the entire community comes to the beach. We interact with each other socially, and it's just been an incredibly rewarding and again, we're making friends for a lifetime.
In addition to Dorado, there are plenty of other real estate options, ranging from downtown city living in upscale condos in San Juan to beachside villas in developments such as Palmos del Mar.
It's a very beautiful, warm culture where the minute they meet you, they love you. You know, everybody is super warm, super friendly. You immediately become family. You come to Puerto Rico and you're like, I don't think I want to leave.
Making the opportunity here even better, property taxes on the island are some of the lowest anywhere in the United States.
I would say it can't even be compared. It's so much substantially less. When I say less, if someone in a $500,000 condominium got a $2,000 tax bill for the year, they might argue it. It's extremely, extremely low.
For some, moving to Puerto Rico simply isn't a possibility. But you can still move your business there while personally remaining in the U.S.
Euro Pacific Asset Management is the company that I moved to Puerto Rico, and we manage money. One thing is we have a family of mutual funds.
Originally based in California, Schiff decided to relocate his business due to the state's high tax rates.
I was looking at Singapore, I was looking at Ireland. I'd already made a decision to leave. The question was, which foreign jurisdiction am I going to move to? And then when I found out about Puerto Rico, I was like, hold on, wait a minute, look, let me check this out.
Despite staying in the U.S. himself, Schiff's business is seeing dramatic cost savings.
Instead of being subject to the massive 50+% marginal corporate tax rate in California, 50+%, I'm at 4% in Puerto Rico, and therefore I can grow that business. That's still a smaller business. I want it to be a much bigger business, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to achieve my goal when I don't have to cut the profit in half.
The big question all investors have about the opportunity Puerto Rico presents is, will it last?
Even if Congress were to take these away, okay, I believe that taxpayers that have a decree, okay, in other words, they have a contract from the Puerto Rican government, that those contract rights must be respected by the United States government.
For Americans wanting to escape higher taxes while enjoying a lifestyle second to none, Puerto Rico is an unparalleled opportunity.
From a perspective of somebody in California paying over 50% tax, coming down to Puerto Rico, you're basically almost doubling your effective income.
In all honesty, I love it in Puerto Rico because you get the tropical environment, you get the beauty of living on an island, but you get all the conveniences of the United States. High-speed internet, highways, business infrastructure, service providers. If I need a lawyer, if I need a doctor, if I need a construction civil engineer, I can find it here in Puerto Rico. Aircraft maintenance people, anything, you name it. It's here, but it's also a 2-minute walk from my house to the beach. It's a 30-second walk to the marina. If I want a yacht to move, if I want to rent a boat slip tomorrow, I can do that and sail around the Caribbean. So you get that island lifestyle, a beautiful thing that people visit. People spend thousands of dollars a year just to go down to the Caribbean for a week or maybe 2 weeks. I get to live it here, do my job here, and not only do that, do it with lower taxes that let me keep more of what I work for.
It's just a matter of doing your homework, getting together with the right service professionals, getting the comfort level that everybody should before you make an investment or a major decision. But then once you realize what you have in hand, take a real close look because the benefits are extraordinary.
If you're interested in taking advantage of this opportunity in America's tax-free zone, you'll need to start doing your homework. Before engaging lawyers or accountants, or even hopping on a plane, you'll want to know if Acts 20 and 22 can fit your situation, and if life on the island will work for you. Thankfully, we have everything you need to get started. A complete video course with some of the world's foremost experts on the tax laws that govern these programs. Continue to explore this website and be sure to check your email so you can access the complete video library, in addition to receiving our acclaimed guide to Puerto Rico's tax program. Learn how you can begin taking advantage of America's tax-free zone.